Welcome to the Overwhelm Edit, the podcast for professional women just like you who are ready to rewrite their story and reclaim feeling capable at work and present at home again. I'm Dr. Sarah Lou, a GP and life coach who specializes in women's burnout and overwhelm. And I'm here to guide you with the practical tools, inspiring stories, and strategies that mix the science and the soul to get you out of survival mode. And so, my lovely, are you ready to edit overwhelm out of your life once and for all? Let's do this. Hello, my lovely, and welcome to this episode. Today, we're going to be talking about all things overwhelm, what it is, why it happens, and most importantly, what you can do about it. I'm going to give you a tried and tested way to calm the overwhelm storm because this podcast is all about giving you tools and strategies. So, listen on. So, what is overwhelm, or certainly what is the overwhelm experience for you? And many of the women that I talk to, it's very loud, it's very messy, it's very big. It feels very strong in the physical reaction, in the words, in the gestures. And it can feel really out of control, like there's no stopping it, that it's got to run its course. And for others, it can feel like a withdrawal, like a retreat, quieter, like it wants you to seek a place of safety. Either way, it's really important to notice what happens for you because this is your unique stress response. This is your unique way of responding to what your brain and your subconscious is perceiving as a threat. And the thing is, we know in everyday life that it's been triggered so easily. It's been triggered time and time again. And it seems like the more it happens, the more it's getting triggered by the small things. It's the email. It's the kids not putting on the shoes on the way out the door, on the way to school. And the thing is, it seems like the trigger is small, but yet the response is big. It's big. It's overwhelming in itself, isn't it? And it's an emotional response, it's psychological, and it's physical. It's the tears springing behind the eyes, it's the irritable, snappy words, it's the feeling of pressure in your chest or your shoulders. It is a lot. And the problem with the overwhelm moment is it is just not pleasant. It's not pleasant for you, and it's not pleasant for those around you either. Because overwhelm results in words and actions and thoughts and emotions that don't feel particularly aligned with who you really are. Like I said earlier, it feels like it's going to run its course, it's going to storm around you, and it's just going to steamroller over you. It feels like this thing has just lost all control. And so the overwhelm in itself is an issue. It's an issue because it feels so unpleasant. It's not nice to go through. And it's not nice to witness in someone that you love as well. Because often people feel really helpless. They don't know how to help. But also, it's so important to know that the more you're experiencing overwhelm, the more these moments are happening, that there is an underlying issue, that there is something underneath this that you need to notice. And that this is your body's way, your mind's way of communicating with you. It's trying to get your attention. Because here's the thing. These moments of overwhelm, whether it's big and loud or quiet and in retreat, it feels like it's coming out of nowhere. I know that feeling. It feels like it's just come out of nowhere at the smallest thing. But actually, what's the underlying cause? But I wonder, what's your flashpoint? What's the point for you where this thing seems to kick off and have a mind of its own? For so many of my clients, it can be, like I said, the email, or it's something not being done the way that you particularly like it around the house. And it just seems to be not to 60 in a matter of milliseconds, doesn't it? And off it goes all of its own accord. And so, if this overwhelm is trying to communicate something with you, what is it actually trying to say? Well, simply put, it's trying to tell you that there's too much being asked of you too often. It sounds so simple, doesn't it? But it's trying to say that there's too much demand upon you and that your resources and your needs are being chronically undermet. But the demand upon you is not just coming from the outside world. Yes, I get it. There is so much out there in the external world, isn't there? You have a job that has high responsibility, there's pressure, there's demands. People really are counting on you. I get it. It's a lot. But it's been propagated, it's been amplified by the demand that comes from inside of you as well. And that's the complex bit. That's the bit that makes it just not so simple to say, okay, I'm going to stop, or I'm just going to start saying no, or even I'll just relax. I'll just learn to relax. If only it was that easy, because I know you've tried. I know you try time and time again. But this inside demand and expectation that we have for ourselves is part of the pattern that's playing out in repeat. And we're going to talk about that in more detail in future episodes. But I want you to know that if you are experiencing perfectionism, fear of failure, procrastination, if you feel like you can never say no, always saying yes at the expense of yourself, then keep following on to this podcast because we are going to cover all of those and we're going to shed some light on that, which is going to transform your life. And today, the message is all about understanding overwhelm. Because you need to know that you're not broken. You need to know that it's not you that's not coping. And you need to know that there is hope. And there is hope. There is a roadmap through this. And it means that overwhelm doesn't need to steamroll you any longer. And so I want you to think about this experience in two ways. There is the baseline stress, which is really high in the background. It leaves you feeling like you don't have much capacity, much resilience, and really much tolerance of anything not going exactly as you need it to. And so when that happens and the baseline stress is so high, that's when we get these spikes of overwhelm. That's when the fuse is just ready to be lit and the fuse feels really short. And so even though you feel like the background stress is high, and maybe in some ways you've even got used to that feeling of stress being so high, it's become part of the normal life. Unfortunately, that's true for many, many people at the minute. But then all of a sudden, these moments, these spikes of overwhelm come out of, it seems, nowhere. And it's because at that point, the stress has just been so high that you can't take any more. And so the overwhelm erupts. It explodes. It kicks off. It spirals. And the thing is, when that happens, it doesn't give you the relief that you need. Unfortunately, after an overwhelmed spike and a moment, often there's the guilt, there's the shame. And we'll talk about those because those feelings, unfortunately, propagate that expectation of yourself. And really, what we need to practice is self compassion and accepting yourself as a human. But we will get to that. What we really need today is to have a way to get some relief in the immediate. And before, I just want to explain a little bit about how stress works in your body. Because there's some amazing science that backs up what I'm about to tell you. And I really think knowledge is power and understanding that there's so much evidence behind what I'm about to tell you so that you can give it a go with confidence. It's rooted in neuroscience and psychology. And it's also tried and tested on many, many occasions by my clients, by my patients in general practice, and also by myself. So you can use this with confidence. And so, my lovely, I'm going to give you an idea that feels a little bit strange, but bear with me. Okay, so stress itself is not the enemy. Sounds a bit bizarre in a podcast that's all about overwhelm. But stress itself is not the enemy. It's the not being able to turn it back off again that is. Stress is designed by your nervous system to detect a threat and to get you to a place of safety. Sounds good, right? Here's the thing. Everyday life is now triggering this response, this stress threat response, all the time. And so stress levels are running high all the time. And in this new heightened state, it just feels like that's become the norm. This activated state, this heightened state, this stress mode being on, that's the new norm. And it's the switching off that actually has started to feel scary. It feels like the enemy, it feels like the threat. And so that's where we start to get into patterns of being chronically busy, of always wanting to be on the go, because actually, when we stop, it doesn't feel good in our bodies. But here's the thing, living in this state of chronic activations, of busyness, of stress, and not having your needs met, because so often they come hand in hand, don't they? We know as the pressure mounts in our lives, as we get squeezed from all directions, our self care disappears out the window. Those building blocks for life just seem to melt away when the pressure's on. And that's when we start to get into the cycle and the spiral of overwhelm and stress. As our demands increase upon us, our resources reduce. And so what happens? What happens is burnout, what happens is overwhelm, and mental health issues can lie ahead. And here's the thing, the more it happens, the more likely it's going to happen because the capacity we have is just so reduced. And so our amazing nervous system, which has been designed to work in harmony, actually has got stuck on. It's got stuck on the activated mode. We just need to learn how to turn the switch back on to the off mode, to the relaxation. And I'm going to show you how to do that in a couple of minutes. But before we get into that, you're going to hear me using some words, and I want to just describe those to you and explain those to you so that you can fully get on board with this. So we have two different types of our nervous system. We've got the sympathetic, which I've got to say is badly named. The sympathetic nervous system is actually our stress nervous system. It's a part of us that would get activated if we need to get our families, ourselves to a place of safety. But it's also the nervous system that's getting switched on at times where we really don't want it to. When we're lying in bed, we're trying to do our good bedtime routine, and okay, we've been tempted and we've looked at our phones and we see an email, and all of a sudden the overwhelm spiral starts. But the complementary part of the nervous system is called the parasympathetic nervous system. And it is the one that is designed to help you relax and feel safe and calm. And you can think of it almost like a yin and a yang and a seesaw. They want to work complementary to each other. But modern day life has asked us to keep that activated, that sympathetic nervous system switched on for too long. So it's got a bit stuck. That seesaw needs a little bit of work and needs a little bit of jiggling about and care and nurture so that we can start to turn this parasympathetic nervous system, relaxation, back on again. And so you're wondering how to turn it back on. And I'm about to share with you one of my favorite tools. It's probably one of the first things I teach my one-to-one clients because in the coaching space, overwhelm is such a key feature. The clients I work with are successful professional women, and the overwhelm has become such a normal part of their life. But they've decided no more. They've decided they want change. They've decided that they want transformation and they want freedom from this pattern that just keeps on playing out on repeat. And so I want to introduce to you the idea of the Apex model. And this is something that is so amazing because, like I said, it's rooted in science, so you can have confidence in it. But it's also something that's really simple that you can access immediately. That, yes, with a little bit of practice, it gets even more effective, but it's going to work for you the very first time that you've done it. And that is so important in this period of life that feels really busy and there's a lot on. We don't want to add to your overwhelm. We don't want to add to your to-do list. We want to have ways to make things feel lighter. And so let's explore the Apex model. And if you want to make notes in this, by all means go ahead, but there is going to be a summary of it in the show notes below. So feel free just to listen. So Apex. What is it all about? Well, A is for awareness. Awareness is the very beginning because this is the place where you get to notice what you notice. And when you grow in your awareness, this is where you're going to be able to make a different choice, where something different can happen And with practice and intention, you can change the course of the overwhelm spiral. So, A, what do you notice? What are you aware of? At what part are you aware that the overwhelm is kicking off? Is it after it's happened? Is it during it? Or are you noticing any signs before? For some of my clients, the awareness happens afterwards and they feel the guilt and the shame creep in first. For others, maybe it's the tension in your jaw, the pressure in your chest. Maybe it's racing thoughts or difficult emotions. The thing about awareness is with practice, you can actually bring your awareness earlier and earlier so that not only can you spot that the overwhelm spiral is going to happen in the first place and use Apex to help change the course of it, but you're also going to be more aware of the triggers. You're going to be more aware of those flashpoints that are going to set this off for you. And you're absolutely going to be more aware of your needs and how they're being met or indeed not being met. So, awareness is the very first place to start. And some of my clients feel a bit daunted at the thought of noticing things a bit earlier than they have done now. But here's the amazing thing about your mind and about your subconscious is that by simply drawing awareness to this practice and listening to the podcast and reading the show notes, is you're giving your subconscious a new path to take. You're giving your subconscious a new program to run, and it's going to help you do this. It's going to do a lot of the heavy lifting. So, my love, just notice what you notice. And the key thing here is do not judge. Do not judge what you see or what you experience. Just notice. And then pause. P is for pause. Pausing allows your body, your nervous system, the time to just recalibrate, adjust, and to do something different. Whether that's for a millisecond, a couple of seconds, maybe even a couple of minutes if that's what you need. Pausing allows something different to happen. It's so powerful. And when we want to do something different, we're talking about embodiment. So E is for embodiment. The idea of embodiment is to get you out of your head and back into your body. And what that means is to get you back into the present moment. Because when overwhelm is starting to kick off and spiral, you are not really there. You're not there in the present. You're somewhere down a future timeline where maybe things feel pretty catastrophic. Or maybe it's something even back in the past that's upsetting for you. So embodiment is about bringing you back into the present moment. It's about creating a sense of safety within your body and using your body to tell your mind that all is well. Using your body to communicate to your brain that it is safe and that calm can be restored. And this is where we use your body to turn on the parasympathetic nervous system, which will, as the seesaw works, reduce that sympathetic stress drive. All of that will start to calm as a ripple effect of this embodiment. And it's so important to give yourself to that embodiment, knowing that it is going to work, knowing that it is rooted in science, neuroscience, and psychology, and the ancient yoga philosophy. And so, how to do embodiment? Good question. There are so many different ways to do it. One of my favorite ways to do it is really accessible. You can use this anywhere and at any time. And it's called the physiological breaths. And it's where you take 3 deep breaths. And you might be thinking, okay, I've heard of deep breaths before. But these 3 breaths are different. I want you to imagine that you're going to fully inflate your lungs as much as possible to the point where you feel you can't possibly take in any more air. And then what you're going to do is do a very quick little snort through your nose and just get that little bit extra air into your lungs. And then there's just a moment of pause. And as you exhale, all the stress you can start to feel leaving your body. And you repeat this 3 times. And the physiological breaths are so amazing because what's happening when you're in that stressed, activated state is that your respiratory drive, your breathing rate, is really fast and shallow. And so when some of the other breath practices you might have heard about want you to really slow your breath down and maybe do 4 or 6 breaths a minute when, normal breathing rate is 12, that actually, if you're breathing faster than 12, that it's going to feel really hard to access that lower breathing rate. And so it can feel really scary in your nervous system. You're going to feel some pushback and friction. And so this physiological breathing actually allows you to bring your breathing rate from that fast back to where it is normal, functioning, physiological level. And then if you want to, you can go into another breath practice that's going to be slower or longer breaths, reducing your respiratory rate even more. But these 3 breaths are amazing. Imagine it like it's an emergency pill that you can carry in your back pocket, or it's a stress SOS. This breathing you can do absolutely anywhere. And I adore it. I love it. And you can make it a bit extra if you want to. Some of the other ways to turn the parasympathetic nervous system on even more is to use the idea of touch. So, for example, if you carry stress in your chest, as you breathe out, maybe it will feel good to put a hand to your chest and just press in gently as you exhale. Maybe it's that feeling of tension in your shoulders, and maybe reaching up and giving them a rub in between each of these breaths. And one of the other ways I really like to get as much out of it as possible is to imagine when I'm breathing in, and I invite my clients to do this as well, and I know they love it, to breathe in a color that's calming and soothing, maybe a yellow, a mellow green, or a pale blue, a calming color. And then when you breathe out, that the color of the breath out is the stress leaving your body, whether that's a red or a smoky gray. And you can visualize that moving on and dispersing. And so with every breath that you do, the calm returns and the stress leaves. And it is absolutely amazing. Maybe you're even giving it a go as you listen. It's something that I do with my clients in my coaching space, and I know how much they love it. So I would love to hear how it works for you. And so, my lovely, you're probably thinking, well, what is X? We haven't done X in Apex. And X is really exciting. X is where really you're at a crossroads. X is where you get to make a decision about how you want the next few minutes, the next period of time to go. So it's not going to be in reaction, it's going to be with intention. And so Apex isn't necessarily going to be about avoiding something that's difficult. Maybe indeed, once you feel calmer with the breaths and the embodiment, you're going to feel able to face that difficult decision or that difficult moment or conversation. Or maybe it'll become apparent when you're feeling calmer and more at peace that actually you can do a different action, you can do a different plan than the one you felt you needed to when the overwhelm spiral was starting. The Apex is incredibly effective. There are many, many other ways to do embodiment, and I'll list some of those in the show notes below. But I have mentioned the physiological breath as a really accessible way to get started today. And so, my lovely, now that you've experienced being back in your body, being back in the place and the time that you are, you know that the calm will return. And so, this Apex model is absolutely life-changing. But my lovely, we have reached the end of the episode, and I hope that you feel so much more aware of what overwhelm is and why it happens and why it is absolutely not your fault and that you are definitely not broken. And that you're also feeling empowered that you now have a tool, you now have Apex that you can carry around in your back pocket and use it as and when you need. And reach out. I would love to hear how this works for you. If you're on socials, you can contact me on Instagram or Facebook, or indeed feel free to drop me an email and I will always get back to you. And I will speak to you very soon. Bye bye.